Everyone can hear me, then I'm just going to go ahead and knock it out. We're going to go over 3 different sections of the brewery today. We're going to go over the history and alcohol laws in Georgia and the history of our brewery. We're then going to delve into the 4 main ingredients in beer, which are going to be talked about by that blue room, kind of to my left, that diagonal over there, all those pallets outside of it. And then we're going to end with a brief explanation of the procedure to our right, all of these tanks and how we get from nice water to the beer you're enjoying right now. So once again, the last time I asked, can everybody hear me? Okay, awesome. If you were raising your hand at the back, then you're good. Awesome. Thumbs up. Okay, well, I'm going to take another sip of beer before we start. So if you guys want to cheers, best way to start a tour. Okay, Red Brick was established in 1993. We're the oldest brewery in the Southeast. Before 1993, it was actually illegal to make beer and distribute it within the state of Georgia. So if you had a beer in Georgia before 1993, it was from another state or from another country. As you know, if you live here, Georgia has pretty archaic laws when it comes to alcohol. Georgia actually enacted the prohibition in 1909 before it was actually a federal enacted law, if you will. So Georgia's far back reaching awful laws with alcohol. Currently, the laws with alcohol that typically hinder breweries are going to be your distribution laws. In the state of Georgia, you're not allowed to sell directly to the customer. We can't sell beer to you guys. I know you guys are thinking right now that I have a glass of beer and you guys just sold me this. We did not. We sold you a souvenir pint glass. I'm not even joking. This is the law. We sold you a pint glass and we donated 32 ounces generously. I know, we're so awesome. And that's the regulation that the Department of Revenue has put on all breweries. So if you go to any brewery and go on tour, you're going to get a souvenir pint glass and you're going to get 32 ounces. That's 4 8-ounce pours for us. Other breweries, that's 6 5.5-ounce pours. Really, however you want to do it, as long as it equals out to 32 ounces or less. So is everybody with me? So how do we sell our beer? We can only go through a third-party distributor, and only one. So basically, we'll make our beer. We'll have our one company, General Wholesale, that distributes our beer within the state. They'll come take it out in one of those loading bay doors, and they'll take it to your local bar or liquor store. So as you can imagine, not having multiple distributors really puts a kind of a cap on how much beer you can sell and how far it's spread out in the state, and that really hinders breweries from opening up in Georgia. Georgia used to be ranked 47th in the nation for least amount of breweries. That's great, right? Can you guys guess what the other 3 states that somehow beat us? Alabama, Alaska, Hawaii, there you go. So the 2 newest states, and then the only state that's more backwards than Georgia. Actually, surprisingly, Alabama just repealed, or I guess made legal brewing for the first time this year. So that 1993 date we talked about in Georgia, that's 2013 for Alabama. So they're even 20 years behind us. That's not to say that there hasn't been breweries in Alabama. However, to have a brewery in Alabama before this law was passed, it had to be a historical brewery before the Prohibition. So few and far between. It also had to have 75 seats, I believe, for sitting down. I don't know what stipulation that had to do with, but Alabama finally did get brewing passed. But like I said, Georgia is going to be in 1993, and that's when we opened up, in the summer of 1993. From about 1993 to 2006, we used to be located at a different location. Had anybody been to the old William Street location? There you go, awesome. How awesome was it? Pretty cool, says the guy in the green hat. I can't hear you now, but that's fine. I'm not going to repeat that. It was an awesome location. It was much smaller. For those familiar with the Atlanta area, it was next to the William Street Bridge and 10th Street. That bridge was built in 2006. So in 2006, the Department of Transportation paid for us to move here, part of their eminent domain project. So we got this move for free. So if you look around, you're going to see a lot of dead space, a lot of space for us to expand. Also, on the other side of that cinder block wall to my left is an adjacent warehouse that is empty. So talks have been in the future that if we need more space, is knock that wall down and get the exact same space we have in here, except another warehouse right next to us. So like I said, we moved here in 2006. In 2006, we also gained a new CEO. Our CEO's name is Bob Butt. Very awesome guy. He's not here tonight, unfortunately. Not like he's dead, but he's not with us tonight. He is alive and well. Probably not the best thing to say about your boss. But like I said, moved here in 2006. Also in 2006, we gained some new investors. It's a privately owned company, so obviously the more investments you get, the more money you have, the more beer you can make, the more equipment you can fix. So 2006 was a really big year for us. Around 2007, 2008 is where we're going to pick up on another chapter. We started rebranding ourselves from ABC, or Atlanta Brewing Company, if you've seen that in the past, to Red Brick. Again, with about 2007, 2008, we started moving that name from Atlanta Brewing Company to Red Brick. Technically, we are still Atlanta Brewing Company. If you look on the spine of any of our bottles, you're going to see Atlanta Brewing Company or ABC. So on paper, we are Atlanta Brewing Company. However, the beer you're going to see in the market is all going to have Red Brick over it. We no longer market ourselves as Atlanta Brewing Company. Why did we change our name? We changed our name not to regionalize ourselves just in Atlanta. We currently serve all 8 southern states, the whole Southeast. So we didn't want to be known as just an Atlanta brewery. Red Brick's a little bit more neutral, and it sounds better in my opinion. So again, 2007, 2008, we changed that over to Red Brick, and that's what you're going to see in the stores and what you have been seeing the last 4 years. So let's fast forward to 2013. We're projected to do about 11,000 barrels this year in the market. Does anybody want to guess? I'll give you guys 5 seconds. How many 12-ounce beers that is?
4 billion.
This is 100 barrels right here, one of these large tanks behind this one. 5 million? That's a good guess, a little lower. Ah, she's getting very close. Okay, you're 5 seconds up. It's 3.5 million, 3.25 million. I'll do the math with you. You guys can't see those barrels back there, but you can see, you see those kegs that are up against that cooler? You guys see the larger kegs? Those kegs are called half-barrel kegs. As the name suggests, 2 of those, 2 half-barrel kegs would equal 1 barrel. You guys are good. 1 barrel is going to equal anywhere between 325 to 350 beers. If you want to look at a barrel, if you look behind the band, which is impossible because there's a bunch of pallets in the way, but if you were to imagine that those pallets weren't there, you're going to see those wooden barrels that we have. Those are going to be the same barrel we're talking about. 2 half barrels are going to equal 1 of those barrels. So 325, 350 multiplied by 11,000 is going to get us in that range of 3.25 to 3.5 million. So a lot of beer. So we're good in the history, the alcohol laws. Does anybody have any questions about any one of those subjects before we delve into the ingredients in beer? No questions. Awesome. That's good. Well, I'm going to take another sip of beer. Do you guys want to join me? Is anybody else drinking Vanilla Gorilla? Does anybody else think it's really good? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Can everybody still hear me? Cool. You guys didn't say anything, but I'm assuming you can hear me. That's fine. Can you guys guess the 4 main ingredients in beer? Hopefully. No one's ever missed it. So if you guys do, you'll be the stupidest tour I've ever given. Water, hops, yeast, barley. Okay, awesome. You guys got it. And love. That's the hidden 5th ingredient. And blood and sweat, except not either one of those. So again, we have water. We're going to talk about the water by those wooden tanks all the way to the back, by that red office. We're then going to talk about adding the flavoring ingredients, all of the grain, all of the malt, all of the barley. And that's going to be talked about by that blue room, once again, over there, all those pallets. We're then going to delve into the hops, the 3rd ingredient, or the 3rd main ingredient. And the hops are going to be added in the kettle, where that orange ladder's leading up to, that tank. And then we're going to end with the yeast and these conical bottom fermentation tanks in the back. So again, we have water, flavoring ingredients, hops, and yeast. Everybody on the same page? Where do we get our water? Good question. Not from Colorado. Probably from the Chattahoochee at some point. But if you live in the area, you'll notice that if you take a ride out of this brewery, the Howell Mill treatment plant for water is right there. All those reservoirs are going to be on your left and right, big pools of water. So we're pretty close to the source. You might ask yourself, well, how important is water? Water is everywhere. Every brewery has to use water. Does anybody have anybody lived in Chicago or New York at some point in their life? Okay, there you go. The really pretentious debate about their pizza usually revolves around the fact of the water source, the minerals in the water that you can't recreate. Noting that you can't make the same dough in another state, so you would not be able to recreate Chicago pizza, let's say in Georgia. Same exact thing for breweries. If you were to take this whole brewery and move it to another state or another country, the water source would change the way the beer tastes on a very minuscule level. So water is very important. Our water comes from Atlanta, obviously. Atlanta actually ranks fairly high as far as urban levels, the amount of population we have. So that's good for us. We don't live in Florida or other places where water really sucks. And we are very close to the source. The only thing different about this water is we do treat it before we use it, and it is checked weekly by the water company to make sure we're putting out a substantially decent water supply, if you will, because we're dealing with a lot of water. If you look at those big wooden tanks back there, they say 65 BBL. Does anyone want to guess what 65 BBL stands for, or what that would mean? I don't think you're wrong. I didn't hear you though. You have barrels. There we go. So 65 barrel tanks back there. Like I mentioned earlier, we're projected to do 11,000 this last year. Those are only 65 barrel tanks. Does anybody want to guess what the tanks stand for? One tank says HLT1, one tank says HLT2. Hop Lana is a good guess, but no. It's really something pretty mundane. It's hot liquor tank. As the title suggests, once again, it's just hot liquid. There's nothing special about the water in those tanks other than it comes from the great city of Atlanta, and it's treated. The water in those tanks is going to be hot, obviously. It's going to be at a temperature of 170 degrees. Does anybody want to guess why we have it at 170 degrees? There's multiple reasons, but I'm looking for a main reason. Not yet. Not yet. We're going to do that in the kettle, and then we heat it up to boiling. Basically, 170 degrees is going to be the temperature at which we convert starches over to sugars. So in a moment, we're going to be making sugar water. It's really simple. We're going to be making a substance called wort, W-O-R-T. And to put it very simply, again, it's just glorified sugar water. So we're going to have to find a way to convert all these starches and these grains over to sugars. At 170 degrees, the same thing you do in your coffee or at home, is going to basically dissolve that and convert everything over to sugars. So nothing really technical yet. So all we've talked about thus far is 170 degree water in those wooden tanks. Is everybody on the same page? Cool. Okay, let's go on to the next segment. If everyone can divert their eyes and take a visual field trip to this blue room over here. You guys see all the pallets outside of that room? All the sacks sitting on those pallets? That's going to be all of our flavoring ingredients. In no specific order, we're talking about all of our grain, all of our malts, all of our barley. For the brevity of the tour, we're going to go with the simple mantra of typically the lighter the ingredients, the lighter the beer, the darker the ingredients, the darker the beer. There's exceptions to every beer, but again, for the shortness of the tour, we're just going to go with that simple motto. So what beer do you guys want to make? We only have 4 choices today. We can make our Sacred Cow, it's brand new. We can make the Vanilla Gorilla, our Vanilla Porter. We can make the Hop Lana, our IPA, or make the Laughing Skull. The first person to say something. Sacred Cow. I heard you before I even mentioned anything, so Sacred Cow it is. Sacred Cow is a chai tea milk stout. It's the first chai tea milk stout we've ever made. It's currently our winter seasonal. This is the first time that it's been our winter seasonal, and it replaced our porter, which was our double chocolate oatmeal porter. So if you had the porter in the past, the chai tea milk stout or the Sacred Cow has replaced that as our winter seasonal. We've only made this once. So when these guys are back there, they're probably pretty unfamiliar with the recipe. So they're going to be looking at this sheet. They'll be looking at all of the allocations for the ingredients, if you will, like any baker or any chef would. And when we're doing things, we're going to be talking about consistency. We want to make the same beer each time. Quality control is immensely important when you're talking about breweries. One of the reasons that Anheuser-Busch and those very large breweries get a lot of credit is because they create the same product over states, over countries, in different locations, different water sources. And they're making the same bad beer, but they're making that beer at a very consistent level. I believe the CEO of Samuel Adams was asked last year what was the most impressive feat in the brewing industry right now, and he answered it was the quality control those large 3 breweries produce, which is just ridiculous. You're going to get the same Budweiser you get at one gas station, 2 states over, it's going to taste the exact same, or should taste the same. So again, quality control is very, very important and also very hard to recreate the same beer. So how are we going to recreate the same beer over and over? We're going to weigh out each ingredient independently to make sure that we get the exact same recipe each time. So if you look back there, you can't see it, but there's a large scale. The scale, like I said, is going to weigh out all of these ingredients. Once we have a consistent recipe and it's ready to go, we're going to put it inside that blue room. I know you guys can't see inside that blue room, but I'll tell you what's inside. It's an industrial mill, a very, very large grain mill. Some history on this mill, not that it matters, not that you guys really care. In 1992, before we opened up, a year before we opened up, this mill was found abandoned in a field in London. Someone refurbished it and sold it to us, and it's been our mill for the last 20 years. So if you go in there and look, it looks very antiquated.